I would be literally drowning in insights, and I would have them on post-it notes from workshops, flip charts, sometimes photos on my phone. I would sometimes just be completely surrounded by all this paper.
Yeah.
And I did have to manually go through because it was important for me to have captured all of that.
Yeah.
And it took days of my time, days. So all of that has gone for me now. I can just take everything across. I have to say, until I was informed and had some training, I wouldn't have thought I could do it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to How I Use AI. I'm delighted to have with me Ingrid, who's a brand and culture consultant who works in the B2B world in the UK and Europe. I'm going to hand over to her to introduce herself in a second. But just to introduce, because this is one of our earliest shows, what this program is all about, what this podcast is all about. I think people are talking about what AI is and they're saying it's amazing. And you're hearing from me with my post, this is this incredible new technology, but we're not seeing any real results. And we're not hearing about real stories and real tools and real successes that people are having. And this is what this podcast is aiming to do. So we're going to be telling the real life generative AI stories of real people in a wide range of jobs in the hope that one of those you'll really identify with and you'll really learn something that you can go and take into your own job as well. So Ingrid, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
No problem. Lovely to be here, Heather. And I actually think I proactively did reach out to you actually to do this because I have been on a journey recently and I wanted to share it. And I think I come probably from that sort of Gen X generation that has seen a lot of tech come my way in my role from being in marketing over the years. So, and I suppose from stepping my toes into it and probably because I've been on like 4 boot camps with you as well. As I talk to more and more of my peers, I really just am sensing this sort of sense of fear.
Yeah.
And, which I probably did have myself. And I think when I started using AI, it was more maybe just personally having a look, going on and actually not really getting a lot out of it at all, not trusting it, feeling it was all very generic. Couldn't see how I could actually apply it to my day-to-day role at all. So ChatGPT, probably a little bit late coming to the table, but I think all of us have dabbled. But I think where I'm seeing the fear is how you apply it and how you can use it. It's like any technology, it's whether it's transformative or enabling. And I think for me, I see it very much as an enabling tool.
Yeah.
The various tools that I've started using. It's remove the fear by being more informed for me. And I think everyone needs to get informed, at least just at a very high level, get a little bit more informed about the tools. Don't be scared and actually just pick and choose what's right for you as well, so it's because it is a little bit, it's reminding me out there at the moment of a lot of the tech, the sort of, the tech curve of, heightened expectations, and it's all this sort of that's in the news at the moment. And I think there's a lot coming at us. But I think just take a breath because I think, over the next few years, it will kind of become a little bit more a sort of day to day. It's like all the, there was an app for everything, and it's the same thing. We're all like downloading apps like everything. And now we're like looking at all these different tools. So yes. Very, very long introduction, as always.
That's great. It calls up such an important point, and a point I see a lot in my calls actually is people that fear. The fear I'm seeing is around safety, so people are now more aware that this isn't just something you can put anything into and get anything out of, but they're not quite sure of the details, so they're kind of blocking things off. I'm seeing huge companies blocking off every tool, or they'll only have something like Copilot, so that quite a restricted version of a chatbot. And I think it's in that information, isn't it? It's understanding that there are versions of it that are safe. For example, do you use in ChatGPT anything Teams and above? Has got a much greater level of security, kind of SOC 2 compliance, which is always good. So it's kind
100%.
of it finding a source for that information. That's what I hope AI for Non-Techies. That's what the plan was, to make it more accessible and reduce that fear down. Okay. I would love to know. So, first of all, I would love to know how, apart from kind of attending a few boot camps and stuff, and I'm really glad you found that out, which is lovely. Always good to get that feedback. But what else do you think helped you reduce your fear to get from that kind of fearful, I don't know how I'm going to integrate this place, into where you are today, where you're feeling more confident, or you seem to be feeling more confident with it?
Well, really interesting question, Heather. But, for me, my job has mostly been around dealing with data. It's around listening. I do a lot of stakeholder engagement programs where I have to do a lot of qualitative studies. So I have a lot of data coming at me from lots of different sources, and a lot of it is qualitative. And in what I do, it still needs the human. It needs me. It needs my experience. It needs my the intuition and knowledge that I've got over the last 30 years. But what it's done is it's allowed, if you like, me to distill. It's the distilling of that data that I can now see has given me back so much more time to actually do the bit that I enjoy in my job, which is spotting the trends, seeing, and pushing that data so that it really is bringing out, it's like I'm a miner for that, I'm on a quest to find distinction all the time. So, I'm looking for, often building corporate narratives, and that is from going through a lot of qual study, speaking to a lot of different stakeholders. And there was a time when I would be literally drowning in insights, and I would have them on Post-it notes from workshops, flip charts. I'd have them, sometimes photos on my phone that I was taking as well. I'd have bits of paper. I mean, if anyone probably remembers me working in the office, I would sometimes just be completely surrounded by all this paper.
Yeah.
And I did have to manually go through, because it was important for me to have captured all of that.
Yeah.
And it took days of my time, days. And it was part of my role that wasn't my favorite, because for me, it's getting stuck into the strategy. So all of that has gone for me now. I can just take everything across. But I have to say, until I was informed and had some training, I wouldn't have thought I could do it. Yeah. So that's for me what suddenly enabled me was going on my first. I'm not plugging you, Heather, but it was.
I was about to say, this is great.
But of course, I will plug you. But I think for me, that idea that it felt like it was very technical, and I felt excluded from a world that I thought, oh, am I now going to be in a generation that's going to be so left behind that I'm not going to be able to sort of do this? Do you have to be really digitally savvy? Do you have to, and I just realized, no, I don't. But I do think it's what you put in is what you get out.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I've just become a bit of an evangelist about it, really. And I do find it interesting when I see a lot of posts that sort of discuss, the negative side of it, this idea of people losing jobs, and, because I don't know, I think that's probably feeding into the fear. But to me, it's just another suite of tools. And they're just like, it's the distillation of data, really, that it does. And it just also, I mean, I can talk through the different tools, but there were things that limited me as well personally. I'm confident to speak, but I did always struggle with writing. And I think it's just given me some tools that when I write something, I've got a sounding board as well. I can just double check things. Proofreading, everybody knows my attention to detail, because I have one of those brains that's constantly looking and mining, proofreading and just those kind of things. So those sort of things that were probably, I think, holding me back a little bit, probably have gone. They've just completely vanished. So I feel very empowered. I feel there are no real boundaries now to what I can think and imagine and create. So gosh, I'm sounding. I mean, I will talk about some of the negatives, I promise. But yes, I just thought I would get in touch, because I just remember, it's just reminded me of going through so many tech trends. And I worked in tech as a marketing manager, back when I was in my early 20s. So I can just remember how fast tech moves. So, I'm not scared of tech, but AI, I think, has been around for a long, long, long time. Anyway, it's integrated in a lot of what we do anyway. Years ago, we were booking tickets for the Odeon on the telephone. That was all automated. It was all, it's been around. I just think it's just been made more accessible now, made accessible to everybody.
That ability to kind of converse with it in normal human language and not have to know code, because that's what it was. You had to converse with it in code before, and learning that code takes a long time. And it also takes a certain mindset as well. It's the accuracy of having to put symbols in certain places. I tried to learn to code a while back, and I've not got the concentration. I'm ideas, a more creative person. I like strategy. It was too precise. I don't have that level of detail to me.
No,
but I think it's really interesting what you're saying about the data. So that distilling data, because I think that's something that can apply to pretty much every role. And something I've been talking about a lot lately is we all have, and apparently is true, we create more data every year than we did for the entire rest of civilization before that at the moment. So this mountain of data, because everything we do, everywhere we go, every button we press, it's all being recorded somewhere in some way. And we've all got access to all of this data, but we're not utilizing it properly. We can refine what we offer and what we do and how we act according to real, actual data. But we haven't been able to really do that up until now, unless you are kind of trained in, data analysis tools. And I remember in my business degree, they had something called SPSS, and it was so terrifying, really, really frightening. And I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. It just broke me trying to learn it. And I always thought that I put that in firmly technical camp. And now I can just converse with my data. So it'd be really good to know about the tools that you've been using around data in particular. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that a lot of my data is qualitative. So now I'm using obviously a note taker, which I hadn't used. So I literally have books and books. I've kept them all. I've got like so many moleskins that are filled full of interviews, with leadership teams, where I'd be literally writing down everything. I don't need to do that now. It's taken care of. So I can use the transcripts, the summaries. I can feed them now into. So the other thing I've done. So I use obviously AI Note Taker for that.
It's a specific tool that you're using, Ingrid.
Otter. So I've got Otter at the moment, but I'm at that stage where I am going to just try different ones. So I'm going with one to see how it actually works, and then I think that gives you the confidence to maybe then do some trials on others. So that's the one I've been using recently. So I use the other thing I use if I've got an idea, particularly for writing, or I have an idea, or I spot something, because I have a lot of those thoughts. I will go into Perplexity sometimes. I'll go into Perplexity and I just go, can you just search any data sets? And we'll give it sort of like a random question. Like, for example, if I want to understand, for example, like CFOs in PLC companies, how many CFOs have experience in comms, or how they manage comms, or if you are running a company where you've got a CFO that's maybe promoted to a CEO, I might ask the question, are they actually comfortable with communications? So I'll do leadership communications. So I can just put that into Perplexity, and it just gives me so many different data sets and research and journals, and it gives me the citations. It doesn't mean I don't always agree, by the way, in its summary that Perplexity sometimes gives me, but I will look at some of the citations and the journals that it's shared, and then I'll carry on going. And sometimes I will come out and go, nah, it's a bit light, it's a bit generic. It doesn't always provide the answers, but it can just give me some evidence-based data that I do like to have. Because in what I do, I want to sort of always, with my clients, give them that external perspective, get them out of the weeds of their business, and get them to sort of consider what other businesses are doing, what's the data, what are the trends, are they kind of really looking outside? So Perplexity provides me data sometimes to do that.
Yeah.
So I initially started working with Claude AI. That was more to help with my proofreading and my copy and checking my grammar and things like that. I think I was unfortunate when I grew up. We moved around a lot when I was a child, so I kind of felt like I missed out on my grammar.
Okay.
I was speaking different languages when I was younger and stuff. So I was a bit. It's always been an area where I need to check. So I've got that kind of covered off a bit now. But then I just felt it's good at one level, but again, it's what you put in. But actually, I've kind of gone back to using Chat GPT now. But because I've learned to create custom GPTs.
Yes,
so
they're amazing.
They've become my team. So I'm a consultant. I'm used to doing all the tasks required of a consultant, everything, from the admin to the full-on delivery and processing. And we've got a lot of internal processes that we use and models. And I feel with the custom GPTs, I've been able to upload, educate, give it a role that almost like clones me a little bit. But also I use to kind of as a, it's like I'm back in working with another consultant sometimes, where I can actually, no, can you, but I'm not sure quite if that is quite the trend, I just get into that like with it, but it is like now I've got a virtual team.
Well, I think with everything you've said so far, that having a custom GPT is like working with another consultant. Having an AI note taker is like having a PA sat next to you.
Yes.
Having Perplexity is like having a research assistant, somebody, a really plucky, enthusiastic research assistant that's probably going to try and prove your hypothesis. So they're going to send you papers that are favourable to what you're saying and not really necessarily.
Exactly.
And it's your job to then critically analyse those sources. It's like having that extra, and you've mentioned already as a soundboard, I think that's where AI really shines, is that feeling like there's an extra person who's super enthusiastic but not as knowledgeable as you in that area. It's like having an assistant, isn't it? Yeah.
No, seriously. I have a someone that helps with LinkedIn posts so that it kind of gets to understand how I write. It understands my tone of voice. I can feed it in like some of my stronger posts, ask it for some ideas for other posts. No, it's amazing for planning as well. I do use Motion as well for generating tasks and basically managing my workflow. So yeah, I feel quite tooled up. But I would say that literally only started to happen when I became informed. And so, my advice is to anyone, particularly, leadership teams and boards of companies that I tend to work as well, just get really familiar with using those tools for your own productivity as well, because I think that will help then understand how you're going to integrate it across the company. And then you're probably not making these kind of decisions based on just sort of risk and compliance. You can probably like make a bit more, because if you're using it, you're going to be more open to its possibilities. But yeah, before kind of understanding your, which I learned from you, how to prompt well. I would say I saw it as very generic and kind of faceless and humanless kind of, and I do think we're going to go through a period. I think it's happening with creative and design, unfortunately. And I think it's happening with a lot of writing. I do see that kind of generic copy. And because I work in B2B, I've always advocated authenticity, and I work on creating meaningful narratives. And that's why I really listen and say, no, this is really you, and you need to sound more like you. So my concern, I suppose, is, and I have seen it, I think a lot of in-house marketing teams, and I think some maybe more junior members of those teams who have probably been to uni, who are all over Canva, who are all over ChatGPT, I think their kind of feeling is we can do all of this ourselves. And I don't know. I don't believe that's the case. I think it still needs that creative human thinking and the experience that you've gained over many years. So
absolutely. I
don't feel excluded. No,
I was about to say I always say it augments human talent, human knowledge. It can't create. It's not good at being creative. It can't be creative. It's the way it functions is just an amalgamation of everything else, and it's giving you the most likely result that you. It's like a predictive text engine. So it's not going to give
Yes.
you anything that's slightly left field in any way. It's going to be the most obvious
Oh
answer.
yeah, yeah, exactly, Heather. And again, it's what you put in. It's like my knowledge. So, I mean, I know you're like me. I'm qualified in marketing. I've done my qualifications. I made sure I was qualified. And I wanted to be, for my own, credibility. So I don't believe it would work without my own knowledge and creativity. And I just take what I need. And there are times where I almost sometimes get a little bit disappointed because sometimes it will come in and I go, oh, no, come on, try harder. Or, it's probably me being a bit lazy sometimes. But,
it feels like that. I think, and it'd be really interesting to know, actually. So I do want to see the flip side. I always say AI is amazing, but it's also awful in certain places. So where have you been disappointed? What sort of, have you tried any tools, or have you tried any kind of use cases you just think, oh, it doesn't work in those areas yet?
Okay, so some of the things with the tools, and I think this kind of goes back to any kind of like early kind of adopter kind of tools that are, because there's a lot of them coming out, right? They're flying out daily.
Yeah.
I did recently buy Gamma, but I think I trialed it and I liked it, but then when I started to use it, it was technically quite clunky. And I found when I wanted to bring in my own themes or customize it, it was quite restrictive. So that's quite disappointing.
I agree.
So I think be careful when you do the trials that you kind of really test out. But I think some of the tools also are a little bit naughty in that they kind of give you a little glimpse of potential, and then you sign up, and then it's like, oh, it's not really that much more than what you've shown me. So I think be mindful, and also be mindful of not having too many tools either. So I think just find the ones that are just enabling you to do your, like in your productivity, in your creativity. But the only area I haven't really been using AI is probably more in my personal life.
Yeah.
Because I think that is where you need to be with people. You need that. I can't imagine. I know there are tools out there for you to speak to, and but I don't know. I still need to read a face, look into someone's eyes when I'm talking to them.
Yeah, it's not about replacing everything, is it? I think a lot of people think, oh, if I'm to use AI, I've got to bring it into everything in my work and my life. It's absolutely not. It's what are you not enjoying? What do you need a little bit of help with? And that kind of Venn diagram with where is AI actually any good in that area? I agree with Gamma, by the way. I think Gamma's overrated. A lot of people.
I know.
There's a big AI creator saying it's amazing.
I bought it. I was so silly. I signed up, and I was like, but anyway.
But yeah, it's definitely got potential, but I don't think it's there yet. Okay.
No. But they can make it look too easy. So just be careful, because I suppose until you start using tools yourself, you probably can't see that potential. So I would be mindful of not getting. I know there, and the other thing is there is a lot of noise out there. It's coming on like my personal feeds on Instagram and Facebook now as well, and they are pushing this whole fear thing of over 40, over 50, you need to get with this, otherwise you're going to get left behind. I don't think that's fair. I think it's very alienating. So I just think, it's accessible for everybody. Just be a little informed, it's just important to be informed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's wonderful. That was perfect. Thank you so much. These 20 minutes fly by.
Wow.
Really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Ingrid. I'm just going to, before we go, my final question, just as a short one, what if you could recommend, so there's another consultant that works in a very similar area to you and they've never used AI before, how would you recommend they get started and get stuck in? What is there a tool that you think they should try? Is there something what would you recommend to them to go, right, okay, they're right, I'm ready to try something, I don't know where to start. What would be your advice there?
I think that most consultants have their own processes, models, ways of working. And I think that's what we've traded on. You know, we have this process, we have these models. But I think if you can not be process driven and use ChatGPT, like I've done, set up the custom GPTs to do the various process parts of what you deliver, then I think it comes back to actually your own knowledge and energy, I suppose, that you can bring to projects. So kind of let it do the kind of that process driven part of what consultants do. And it just, the time it gives you back is invaluable. And it means you become a consultant because you want to be more strategic and you want to be more creative, and that's what it gives you back. So yeah, I would start with Chat GPT, definitely. But having a paid for prescription and looking at custom GPTs. That's the first thing I get trained on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Ingrid. This has been fascinating.
Heather, and thank you so much as well for enlightening everybody.
I'll try my best.
I'm a fan of the mission. Take care.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.